we're gonna rock tonight. Been to see a horror movie, shocked me out of my seat. Ow! Can't describe what went on, was crazy to say the least. Ghosts and ghouls were dancing around, guitars in their hands. Heads were shaking wildly, all screaming like mad. Shock! Rock! Shock! Shock rock! Shock me out of my seat. Ow! Can't describe what went on.
You may find it hard to believe, but the guy you just saw singing on the videos was me, in the band I was in called AXATAK. Hi, my name is Andrew, and what I want to do is share with you some of my experiences in bands and in music, as well as the reasons why I eventually decided to give it all away and start a new life. How I managed to do this is part of the aim of this video. To begin with, I want to ask you to please watch this right through, as I feel it contains material which you'll be able to relate to and identify with. Its purpose is not for me to glorify myself, but to maybe help some of you from falling into the same traps that I did, because I've been there and I've experienced it. Rock music, I would say, has been the biggest influence of my life. I was attracted by the glamour of it all. The larger-than-life, almost superhero-type existence which the stars seem to lead. And in time, it began to make an impression on me. I started to pay less and less attention to my schoolwork and more attention to what my rock stars were telling me. Their sayings and philosophies I started to adopt, to think about and live by. There comes a time in every young person's life when someone famous is bound to make an impression on them. It could be a rock star, a movie star, or even a sports star. Quite often, this person becomes a role model and gets imitated by their young admirer. My idol was Gene Simmons from Kiss. And this is me as Gene Simmons. I had to do everything he did, to the point of starting a Kiss lookalike band and playing their songs. I imitated him to the extent of learning how to breathe fire by spitting out kerosene, even at the risk of permanently disfiguring my face. But the risk didn't matter to me as much as the thrill of knowing that I could do it. That's how blind I was. There's also the attention you get from others, which you enjoy. It makes you popular and boosts your ego. My case may have been a little more extreme than others, but it's still an eye-opening example of how much someone can be influenced by their rock idol. Eventually, I got serious about music. I decided it was what I wanted to do most. After leaving school, I started up a band with some friends who had similar views as me. In time, we began playing around town, doing our own songs. We really wanted to make it big, and we even got to the stage where we made TV appearances, as you saw in the beginning. We also released a record. This is the self-titled EP that was put out in 1985. That's me on the right. At this point, being from an average Greek family background, I wasn't particularly religious, apart from the usual things which you did traditionally, like go to church at Easter and so on. I only had vague ideas about God. There were more interesting things to think about, like being a good bass player, growing my hair as long as I could, and getting famous. My ideas about God were being influenced by theories such as the Force in Star Wars, as well as by science fiction and fantasy films in general. I also got involved with Scientology for a while, which turned out to be a big fraud, and even joined a UFO society at one stage. All this helped give me a distorted picture of who or what God was. If anyone ever spoke to me about traditional views, I would think that they were old-fashioned and that they lacked modern wisdom. Little did I realise that my mind had been poisoned by all these new ideas. It wasn't until after a few years had passed, however, that I received an unexpected shock. Someone close to me died, and it affected me in a strange way. I started to think about God more seriously. It occurred to me, how can physical death be the end of existence? How can everything we live for, work for, all that we experience, the ups and the downs, the pleasures and pains of life, how can it be all for nothing? Think about it. It doesn't make sense. I thought about how we would all die one day, and more about God. I'd always believed that there was some form of life after death through various things I'd read, but I always had vague ideas about it. I wondered, if God is real, then he wouldn't fool around. Life and death would not be something vague and ambiguous like I'd thought before, but they'd have a definite purpose. Then through a series of events, some friends of mine became interested in Christianity. And through them, I got to see a video about rock music which revealed things to me that I'd never noticed before, which I'll share with you in just a minute. I began reading up about Christ and Christianity myself, and found that the answer had been under my nose all along. The birth of Jesus Christ is what divides human history. If you don't believe that, just have a look at the date on your daily newspaper. If we have a look at a scale of history, we see that it's divided by BC, which stands for before Christ, and AD, which is Latin meaning in the year of our Lord. Notice it's Jesus who is at the centre and not anyone else, like Alexander the Great, an Egyptian pharaoh, or some important event. If Jesus was just a good man, as most people believe, then why does he divide the whole world in two? Obviously, he was more than just a man. Christmas is the celebration of the birth of Christ. Easter is the celebration of his crucifixion and his resurrection from the dead. The resurrection is a fact that sets Jesus apart from any other historical figure who ever lived. The accounts of his appearances are recorded for us by eyewitnesses to whom Jesus appeared alive over a 40-day period after his public crucifixion. He once even appeared before more than 500 people. Now ask yourself one question. Why did Jesus die? He had such divine power that he could have crushed the Roman authorities when he was arrested, or easily caused a revolt with his huge following, but he didn't. Jesus Christ is actually God himself in human flesh. Yet even though these things are under our very nose, how many of us actually remember that Jesus is the reason for the season? Christmas has become Santa Claus, presents, and a time to get drunk. Likewise, Easter is about chocolate eggs and the Easter bunny. It's become so commercialised, the meaning has been almost lost. It was soon after realising these things that I first began to seriously pray. The weird thing about it though was that as I was trying to focus myself on God, evil thoughts would automatically appear as if out of nowhere. This demonstrated to me the existence of the devil, of good and of evil, something I'd never really distinguished between before. It's funny when you realise how easy it is to be evil and how hard it is to be good. It's easy to smoke, to get drunk, to get stoned, to rage